Can we get a little love, man? Can we get a little bit of love out here? Let's do this, man. Let's go. Johnson. All right. What's up, people? How you doing? My name is Tim Black. Welcome to the Tim Black Show. There we go. Looks like we're okay. We're all set up and people ready to go. And guess this will work, man. What's up? How y'all feeling? My name is Tim Black, and you're welcome. Periscope, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the people. Let's make sure we're good to go on YouTube. YouTube peoples. Can I get some YouTube love up in here? YouTube up in here. There we go, YouTube. What is up? Tim Black's Wolfpack on YouTube. Lady Jackie, Diana, M16, Jera, Gira, and Mary Warren in the house. LB Thing, Stuff and More, Luke King in the house. David Melford, James Root, Frank Bayrow. What's up from Seattle? What's up? Over 50 and Fantabulous, Davey Salt, Lions. All right, I'll take it. Emerson Land, what's going on? Welcome. Ashura, music is life. Yeah, we got a crew going on. Sheldon Hughes and Devon and JT in the house. CT, or C-Truth, the Revelator. The Revelator, what's up, man? Green Day in the house. Give it up for all those folks coming through, representing and everything. I see y'all. We're looking good on YouTube. Let's see if we're okay on Facebook. My Facebook people keep coming through. That's great, man. What's up, Facebook? What's up? Raleigh, Denise. How are you tonight? I'm good. I'm good, sister. How are you? You good? What's up, Gladys? What's up, Adam? That's what's up. If you guys could share this on your social media, that'd be great. Hit the like button on YouTube. Hit the share button on Facebook, or like, or do something. Let people know you in here. That we in the spot. You know what I mean? Wow. What's up, Julie? What's up? What is going on? Amanda, Wolfpack in the house. Give it up for the crew on Facebook. Paul is in the house. Joshua, Rachel, Gladys and Jesse and L. Elaine. Okay, L. Elaine. Julie Nelson. Tanya, what up? WM, Walt Kelly in the place. My man, what's up, bruh? Give it up for my crew. My people came through. WM. Yeah, Margarita Silverpots. Thank you guys for showing up, man. Wow. We looking all right, guys. We doing what we got to do. I love this. This is what's up. Now, check this out. So tonight, we're going to do things a little bit different. What we're going to do is, I'm going to save my update about Derek Chauvin, the trial, the murder of George Floyd. We're going to say that for the end of the show. So I tried it the other way, and I'm just going to see how this goes. If I do news clips, then I do the trial. Because the trial, the coverage is lengthy, and I want people to get the news as well, and then I update on the trial. That makes sense? So I'm hoping if you want to hear about the trial, that you will hang in there to hear the trial update, because you don't want to miss this. Guys, the trial update is very significant. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just trying to keep you on the hook. This is very important. You're going to want to hear the developments today. Okay? So we'll get to day 6 of the Derek Chauvin trial, which is actually, to me, it's focused on all the things wrong about George Floyd, but we'll get to that. But today was a different day, okay? So, all right, so to get things kicked off for news for Monday, folks. Okay, to get things kicked off for Monday, folks, here we go. All right, here we go, guys, here we go. Damn, I left that out. I guess I'll add it later. I do have that clip. Okay. First things first, guys. Check this out. Number 1 on my agenda. Move this up here. I don't know exactly where this is at, but I have it. There we go. one of my favorite people, one of my favorite rappers, one of my favorite performers, part of my, when I was a young man, one of my favorite musicians of my era, DMX, is on life support. He suffered a heart attack following an overdose. Earl Simmons, a rapper known as DMX, was on life support on Sunday afternoon and was in a vegetative state. This is reported by the New York Times. His former manager, who said she has been in contact with his family, Mr. Simmons' longtime lawyer, said he had been hospitalized after a heart attack. We're just praying, the ex-manager Nakia Walker said, adding that some of Mr. Simmons' relatives had been allowed to see Mr. Simmons in the hospital. So that's with a very heavy heart, man. I'll bring you that news. Murray Richmond is a lawyer who represented Mr. Simmons for 25 years. Said that Mr. Simmons was hospitalized after he had a heart attack at his home in White Plains, New York on Friday. He's truly an amazing person, Richmond said. He walked into a room, he lit up the room. He couldn't help making you feel good in his presence. Richmond acknowledged that Mr. Simmons has had a difficult life, adding that he shared his pain with the world through his music. He expressed the pain and suffering in a very unique way, Mr. Richmond said. He truly is reflective of a whole segment of our society whose pain and suffering go unrecorded. Richmond went on to say, it would be disingenuous for me to suggest that I'm not worried. I'm not a worried man at this particular point. As we all know, DMX sold millions and millions of records, very popular artist for many years, became an actor, did movies, set records. Mr. Simmons was arrested repeatedly over the years. He also did a couple of reality shows trying to get his life together, in and out of drug treatment centers. Grew up in Yonkers, a city north of the Bronx. Now, those are all facts. What's also a fact is that while I've been on social media lately, I've been hearing people talk really cavalier about people with drug addictions. Very cavalier, like, see, clean yourself up. I can only imagine that drug addiction is similar to any other addiction, meaning it's hard to break. Okay? I don't know if you've ever been addicted to anything, but addictions, by the term of their name, are vices that are difficult to free ourselves from, and we all struggle in some way, shape, or form. To have lived is to have struggled. So I just find it really tiresome that motherfuckers don't understand that it's not that simple to give up something that's emotional dependency, and then it becomes sometimes drugs can take on a physical dependency as well. Not that easy. So I'm not saying we don't need willpower. We need willpower. We also need community power, family power, friend power. Some people need another source of spirituality as well. And so just watch your mouth about making things seem easier said than done when you haven't walked in the shoes of those people. And it's just like, I remember when Philip Seymour Hoffman OD'd. I didn't hear that many people saying, clean yourself up. See? I saw a lot of crying. Yeah, I saw a lot of crying. And I'm not, I'm just watch yourselves. That's all. Life is fleeting and it's very fragile. And I hope that DMX makes a full recovery. And I just want to put some respect on his name and also recognize that a lot of Americans struggle with drug addiction. And that's why, if you ever had anybody in your life with a drug problem, it should not define them. All their goodness and all of their gifts that they give the world should not be boiled down to their drug addiction. All right, give it up for that. Let's go on to the next story. Be a better person. To be a better person is to have empathy for others. All right, next story. Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is suspending. Or it's gonna move where it's gonna hold its annual summer All-Star game. All-Star, Atlanta lost Major League Baseball's summer All-Star game on Friday over the league objections to sweeping changes to Georgia voting laws. Yeah, give it up for that. So, hey, look, man, I hear the conversation about this. First, let's talk about the voting laws. Anything that restricts people's right to vote is a horrible thing. It's definitely, I heard it said, it was a retaliation against black voters for voting for Trump. That's what it's been framed as, okay? This is their way of getting back at you because you didn't vote for Trumpy, old Trump dog. And this is their way, the Republicans' way, of trying to ensure next time they won't have this problem out to blacks. So look, I said this many times. Donald Trump had an opportunity to win the black vote. I'm not saying he should have won it. All it would have took is cutting a check. He didn't want to win it. Trump did not want to win it. I mean, the black community has been neglected by the Democratic Party so profusely over the last 3 decades. It had been very easy for Donald Trump, an outsider, not truly a Republican. In fact, Trump was a Democrat all the way up until the time he ran to be president. He's given us so many Democratic politicians, it's ridiculous. He saw politics as a means to an end. And I said, you know what? Trump could go in and upset the whole apple cart. And that he did, Johnson. He went in and he changed things. He could have changed the voting dynamic in the U.S. forever. It's really no secret that the Republicans don't pay no attention to black voters. It's negligible. They write that off. The amount of black folks that vote Republican in national elections evaporates when you open the wrapper. Okay, if it was a piece of gum, the sugar would leave in 20 seconds or less. I mean, there's nothing there, man. Black people do not vote Republican, not in general elections. Okay, it's like a thing, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. And that's why I'm saying it would have been better for the Democrats to be challenged in this regard. And all it would have took was Donald Trump. So instead of Governor Kemp out of Georgia, and now Texas is following suit with archaic Jim Crow laws that are set to restrict and limit the amount of voters, they could have just won the vote fair and square. Fair and square, you could have won this shit, but you don't want to win it because it pisses off corporations. Okay, so that's one thing about it. Anybody trying to stop anyone from voting, exercises their right to vote, is a piece of shit. Kemp is included in that equation. Now, Major League Baseball. Okay. I don't know much about Major League Baseball's politics. Okay, but I do know about Coca-Cola's. So it says here, CEOs of Delta Airlines and Coca-Cola have also condemned Georgia's voting laws as restrictive. Too restrictive. Dog, Coca-Cola, if you really want to go this route, will you pretend to be holier than thou? Don't get me wrong, I agree. Voting rights, restricting voting rights, wrong. But Coca-Cola just shut the hell up. I don't know about Delta, but I know about Coca-Cola. Okay, so, and it's like any major corporation, multinational corporation, that takes advantage of poor people all over the globe. Okay? That's what they do. Now, if you don't do that, Coca-Cola, I'll take it back. But I got a feeling that if I had a little bit more time, do a little bit more research, I found a rack of shit that your virtual signaling here would not cover for. That's what I'm saying, folks. People like to act like they're your friend when it's convenient to them. That's all I'm saying. It's like Apple. Oh, we want to speak up about this issue. Meanwhile, you got Chinese people trying to jump out of windows and sweatshops making the transistors for your damn phones. But now we're civil rights, we're justice, we're for people's freedom of. Shut up. Be one way. That's all. Be one way, goddammit. That's all we want. Don't lie to us. Don't fucking lie to us. Okay? So here, they want you to keep it 100. Keep it 100, Johnson. Cut the bullshit. And I agree, though, but I agree. So it's like this. Fuck Kemp, but fuck the virtual signaling, too. We could do both things. And as an American who's awake, not in that phony, woke bullshit way, but actually pays attention, I'm not falling for it. Not falling for it. I suggest you don't fall for it either, America. Keep your eyes on your fries. There's a lot of shit. There's three pages to this article. This is AP News, Associated Press. You can go read about it if you want to know more about their bullshit. I don't think you do, Johnson. I think you got the gist of it. Then somebody decided, I'm going to stick it to the Major League Baseball. I'm not going to come out and throw the ball out for you. F you. Major League Baseball is like, you probably can't throw anyway, you punk ass. That really hurt. I think it's a Texas somebody. Maybe it was the Texas governor. I don't know who it is. I'm not going to throw the ball out. Just keep the lights on, ho. Keep the lights on. Talking about. Then you just have a problem with your grid. Shut up. Coming out trying to make statements. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's go to Charles. Yeah, let's go to Charles Barkley. I saw I got a super chat for Tony DeMio. Charles Barkley's never been a person who was shut up. He's known for his outspokenness on controversial issues. He's also known to court controversy. Ironically, Charles was making a comment recently about race. Wow, he never talks about race. I wonder why Chuck talks so much about race. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that as we watch the clip of Charles Barkley putting it down, representing, speaking the truth out loud. All right, Johnsons, check this out.
I'm a black man.
Shared that news, how painful it was.
Yeah, but the one thing I took out of that piece was, man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system...
Here we go.
Shared that news, how painful it was.
Yeah, but the one thing I took out of that piece was, man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people, but we're so stupid following our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
All right, Johnson. Okay. Now, this clip from Charles Barkley went very viral. People were talking about it all over the internet. I reposted it not only on Twitter, but also on Instagram and Facebook. That's right, 3 places, Johnson. It did very well. People said, oh, wow, Charles Barkley is spitting truth to power. And I did agree, he's right. But after some self-reflection, I realized that Charles Barkley was talking about politicians. Was he really right? Okay, I'm gonna call it 50-50 ball. Okay, it's like a rebound. Two people jump up for it. It's a 50-50 ball. Anybody can get the ball. Let's go with this. Here goes my first piece of criticism about Charles Barkley's comments. I would have liked it better if he would have said the media. Yeah, man, it's the media that does that shit. What are you talking about, Chuck? Oh, that's right, because Chuck's in media. Chuck don't want to say it's the media that really divides us. I mean, come on, is it really politicians? I mean, I know what Donald Trump did, but Donald Trump was a master at using what? The media. Yeah, man, it's not the president. In fact, one of the main criticisms we have of Joe Biden, at least that I have of Joe Biden, is he don't use his bully pulpit in a way that really builds a new constituency or builds ideas around aggressive policies, radical policies that actually would change people's lives. He basically gets on the mic and says nothing. That's what he does. And Trump was really good at using the media. He did the opposite. He got on the mic and said things that were mostly damaging. Okay, so I agree. Politicians use race, but media uses race more. This is America. That's what media does. That's what Chuck does. And in fact, I'm going to play some clips of Chuck because a lot of people apparently don't know who Charles Barkley is. Because a lot of people are kissing his ass today. And I'm like, why is so much Charles Barkley ass kissing going on? This the motherfucker that don't even know why we need to limit cops. Now, don't get me wrong, even a broken clock can be right twice a day. I'm just saying, there are people in media who don't even know the shit that Charles has said. Publicly on media, not privately in his own house. Here goes some of the clips of Charles Barkley saying things, often wrong, occasionally right. Occasionally. It's almost like when Chuck is right, it's by accident, motherfucker. He don't even intend to be right. He kind of backs into being right. Or he's being so offensive, somehow it's right. Case in point.
Shared that news, how painful it was.
I'm a black man. I use the N-word. I'm going to continue to use the N-word with my black friends, with my white friends. They are my friends. This debate that's going on with the Miami Dolphin thing about bullying and racial slurs. Hey, Ernie, in a locker room and when I'm with my friends, we use racial slurs. So this white America don't get to dictate how me and Shaq talk to each other. And they have been trying to infiltrate themselves saying, well, you guys use it. It's in rap music. No. That's not the same. As I tell my white friends who I love like brothers, whether it's Joe Klein, Mike Jaminski, Dan Marley, they've asked me, well, when is it appropriate? I said, well, if you use it around the wrong brother, the next thing you're going to hear is a clock side your damn head.
Go, Shaq.
That's when it's inappropriate, Ernie.
Give it up for that. And as offensive as that was, I fucking love that. Because that's how I feel. Yeah, when I'm with my brothers, who's a brother that you know that I know? My real brother, like my brother CJ or Cool or Gene. Those are my real brothers. Yeah, if I was with those brothers, you know what I mean? Because Sam hanging out with a real brother like DMX. Yeah, the way we talk, but that'd be the way I would talk with, H.A. Goodman. But anyway, the point is this. Guys. God, I said H.A. Goodman, man. The point is this, guys. I like that about Chuck right there. Chuck said the right thing. Well, he said something that I can agree with. It's not right or wrong. I agree with this shit. I think Chuck is right here. White people should not be telling black people what they can say. how they can say it. And no, you don't get a pass to say it because black people say it. It's a free country, it's supposed to be equal rights, right? So why can't I say the word that we used, that we gave you to demean you and demoralize you for 400 years? For 12 generations, you couldn't earn wealth, stack money, have your own ability to fulfill your own self-worth, to go forth in life. I owned you like furniture for 12 generations, and now I want to use that word now because you get to use it. Now I feel like a slave because I don't get to use that word. So Chuck's right about that. Now here goes some things Chuck was wrong about. Still want to kiss his ass?
I'm a black man.
And she was angry because her son got killed.
But you point out community makes mistakes too.
Well, and I've gotten in trouble because I think we as black people, we got to do better ourselves. You know, black on black crime is a travesty.
Yes.
And we can't keep treating each other with such disrespect, then call the cops. And when things go bad, get mad at the cops. We have to start policing ourselves much better.
Now I know why you really like Chuck. You like Chuck because he says shit like this. Yeah, as if you can't go anywhere on the globe where there's poverty and not find violence. Anywhere you go where there's poor people struggling for resources, you're going to find people with violence. And the whole idea of black on black crime is bullshit anyway. What you think goes on in Asian neighborhoods? Asian on Asian crime. What goes on in poor white neighborhoods? White on white crime. Hell, sometimes it goes on in affluent white neighborhoods. Fighting over who has the best landscaper, who has the most Christmas decorations. So this is bullshit. There's a lot of things Chuck doesn't address. He's really careful at who he picks a fight with. And 9 times out of 10, Chuck takes a dump on black people. And that's why a lot of people like him. Well, that's why a lot of white people like him. And a lot of conservative black people like him. Because he is a conservative who worships cops. Next clip.
I'm a black man.
When things go bad, get mad at the cops. We have to start policing ourselves much better.
What did you learn?
I learned there's some amazing people out there.
Yeah.
I met a pastor in Atlanta who. So what I want to do is, like, I want people to watch and sit around and say, does he have a point? Does she have a point? Do they have a point? But everybody's so afraid. And you shouldn't be afraid to talk about it.
They got mad at you in Baltimore when it seemed like you were defending the police.
Well,
you took a lot of heat there.
And I had no problem with that. First of all, I've always defended the police, but that doesn't mean I think they're always right. First of all, we need the police, especially in the black community.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they don't make mistakes and they haven't did things wrong. Mm-hmm. We have to find a way to hold police accountable when they do things wrong.
That's the problem, Chuck. Police never get held accountable when they do things wrong, Chuck. You worshiping blue, anywho, Blue Lives Matter asshole. Yeah, man, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Chuck that don't give a fuck, okay? And this is the Chuck that says any old stupid shit. He's a conservative guy who kisses. He just told you, I always defend the cops. Even before he knows what happens, he defends the cops. That's why a lot of people didn't report on Chuck when Chuck called out politicians. And once again, in that same clip, and a few minutes later, what was he doing? Talking about race, talking about black people. He's not talking about white people. He's talking about black people issues. Why is a conversation about race relations always turn about Chuck telling black people they need to do better? He sounds just like Obama, but less eloquent. I think I got one more Chuck piece.
I'm a black man.
why I've always defended the police, but that doesn't mean I think they're always right. First of all, we need the police, especially in the black community.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they don't make mistakes and they haven't did things wrong. We have to find a way to hold police accountable when they do things wrong.
And you know, to your,
And let me make this other point. And I want to make this one point. You know, when people talk about race, they always want to act like it's only white people who are racist. Listen, there are black people who are racist also. Don't ever get that. That's one thing I always want to talk about. And I consider racism the greatest cancer of my lifetime. Unfortunately, to some people, I'm always going to be black. But the one thing I learned growing up in Alabama was my grandmother, who's the greatest person who ever lived in my life, said to me, you judge everybody by their own individual merits, because there are just as many black idiots as white idiots.
And Chuck is a black idiot. He is, man. Of course, there are some black people that don't like white people, who find them not people they want to hang out with. There are bigots in all races. I've heard Ida Rodriguez talk about this bigotry in Puerto Ricans, that there are Puerto Ricans who treat other Puerto Ricans badly. Darker-skinned Puerto Ricans get treated bad by light-skinned Puerto Ricans. And probably as a reflex, dark-skinned Puerto Ricans probably don't mess with light-skinned Puerto Ricans as much. I mean, that's what the downtrodden do. And that's all black people do. But of course, yes, I'm sure in the Asian community, there's some rifts between different groups of Asians. I don't know, I'm not in that community, so I can't speak to that. But come on, dog, like this is not a new thing. This is what Chuck is missing and what a lot of people miss, is that when we talk about race in America, we're not just talking about people's different opinions or preferences. That's not a problem. Everybody's got preferences. Fine, cool. When we talk about race, we talk about power. Who really gives a shit if somebody outside of Walmart is saying the N-word? Now, it may get you punched in the mouth. It may get you ostracized or chased off Twitter. But the real problem is substantive, structural shit that black people just can't do to white people. Come on, man. A black person may be mad at you, but can they deny you a job? Here goes a few lists of things that being black costs you. See, it's not the same to say black people and white people are racist. It's white people that hold the power. For instance, when I covered the book by Sean Rochester called Black Taxed, how many of y'all sat through and really listened to that show? You must not have listened to that show, because then you would already know this shit. But just in case you did not listen, or maybe you knew, let me enlighten you. In Black Tax, we talked about all the things that are documented that cost black people more in this country just because they are black. It doesn't cost white people the same, because even if black people don't like white people, they can't stop white people from getting, for instance, real estate. That's right. Real estate appraisals. We just saw anecdotally, we saw 1 or 2 cases where black homeowners had to go and get their white friends to pretend to own their homes just so they can get a fair appraisal. How many black companies are doing appraisals are able to get lowball white people just because they white? Not that many, Johnson. We don't own enough real estate. They weren't even showing black people homes in white neighborhoods. They only showed them the hood. So they gave them less value on their homes, which damages their legacy and the amount of money they could pass down to their kids. Well, luckily they were smart enough to have a white friend come stand in for them. Next, automotive market. Do you know the average black, this is a study, these are not me making it up, okay? The average black car buyer pays $1,100 more than a white car buyer, with this, even after adjustment for credit, history, and all other things, earning potential or earning wages or salary, things that they make the decisions on regarding buying a car. $1,100. It turns out the salesmen up the price when they deal with black people. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible that black dealership owners don't raise or salesmen don't raise the price of the vehicle when they see a white guy. But how many black salesmen are able to do that? And we even talk about financing, where based on our studies, we know that finance companies have been doing what? Adding more interest rate points to us, making us pay more money with the same credit as the white guys. In fact, guys, there's been lawsuits. Toyota's been sued. Honda's been sued. GMC's been sued. GMAC's been sued. For what? For discriminating against and making black people with the same credit pay more money when getting their cars financed. They got sued and lost, Johnson. Hell, GMAC was sued for even doing it to its own employees. So when Chuck says, hey, this racist people and this racist blacks, racist white, it's a big difference if you happen to be of the race that controls shit. I'm not done. Online commerce, Airbnbs. Do you know how hard it is for a person with a black sounding name to be able to get an Airbnb? They did studies on it. Oh, you want to know what's even worse? Being a black homeowner trying to rent out your Airbnb. A lot less value to the marketplace for some strange reason. Once again, I'm sure if black people own Airbnb, they could do the same thing, but they don't own Airbnb, dog. Job searches. We all know the stories about job searches and how black job searchers get less hits because their names sound black. What do you think happens when they show up and they are black? Or maybe sometimes they win people over, but what happens when they don't? We're talking about same education level, same level of experience, not getting called back for jobs. In fact, based on the book and based on the studies, there have been black people with more experience, more job experience, more education, getting less job offers than white people who are underqualified. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Chuck is either dumb or he's lying. Now, I would like to think he's dumb, and we just like the way he talks. But at some point, when I see people in the media cheering for Chuck, not putting it in any context, and just going with it, makes me think they kind of don't give a shit. All the things that I'm listing you that makes Chuck wrong. And I never see them do content on it. They just sort of let him say anything they want, and they ignore talking about it. Why? Because they can. Their base don't care about it. And who's their base? People always say, Tim, you don't even want to cover this. Why is that? Why? Because it's not news? You don't think the biggest justice, police brutality case in the last 30 years is news? Or is it that their base, who is mostly what, don't give a shit to watch it? You think they don't want viewership? Come on, dog. They covered Russiagate. Last thing. Business financing. Once again, Chuck says everybody's racist, black people racist too. Yeah, so what? Who cares if you in your own bedroom throwing stuff at your TV when the show, the white guy wins the day or something? Who gives a fuck? Okay? How does that impact people's lives? But you know what impacts people's lives? The white guy who's the loan officer at TJ Morgan or JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America, who denies your loan application for your business, which is what happens to black people. So these are just a few of the things. And it's a longer list. It's more shit. I don't want this segment to be too long or too big, okay? I don't want it to go on and on. But let's live in reality. Okay, Chuck is right. Politicians use race, just like the media uses race. It's like everything in this country uses fucking race, and it's tiring. But you know what's even more tiring than being a white person listening to this shit? Being a black person having to live in it. All right, next story. I got one more story, man. Damn, that was saucy. That might even go a little viral, but I bet it won't. All right, all facts. Nobody wants to hear that shit. They want to hear Chuck is right. This is the kind of black guy I like. He's saying that. I like that. should have blamed he should have said politicians and media. Then his job would be in jeopardy. That's when they cut the Mike Johnson. Okay. Let's go here.
I'm a black man.
No shit. I want to put this in. I meant to put this in. My bad, but I want to cover this real quick. I want to cover this, so I'm going to have to add it. Because I grabbed the story here.
Just one thing, though, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
My brother, Dr. Cornel West. Y'all know I'm a big Cornel West fan.
I thought about my grandfather. I'm not going to stand there for no 9 minutes and 29 seconds and watch somebody murder my father. No, no. Just one thing, though, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I thought about Brother George, and I thought about my brother, and I thought about...
So let me set this up real quick now that I got the clip in place. All right, so you guys know I'm a big-time Cornel West supporter, fan, admire his work. He makes me want to be a better person, a better orator, a better preacher of things that are powerful and speaking truth to power. You all know that, so I'm very happy to say I've had him on the show. Can't wait to have him back. Ask him anything, he tells the truth, based on what he believes the truth to be. Okay, so Dr. Cornel West was recently on CNN with Don Lemon. They had a conversation about George Floyd and the impact of this trial, and what it will be, what it's been so far, and how important it is. And it got very emotional, okay? Cornel West has a way of putting words in such a order that's going to elicit a response from you. Your mind might be telling you don't feel nothing, but your brain, your body, your emotions, all that's going to work to make something come out of you. And that's the whole purpose. And that's the reason why Cornel West is so good at what he does. Here goes Dr. Cornel West moving Don Lemon to tears. Very well.
Just one thing, though, brother.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I thought about Brother George, and I thought about my brother, and I thought about my father, and I thought about my grandfather. I'm not going to stand there for no 9 minutes and 29 seconds and watch somebody murder my father. No, 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 no. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about pacifism, and I believe in nonviolence, but I'm not going to watch that kind of murder. I love my brother Charles McMillan. That's why he was crying. That's what his tears were about. He felt helpless. We're not going to do that. Some of us black folk, some of us black men, we're not going to stand there. We're going to have to intervene in some way. They ain't going to kill us like that, and we remain spectators. Because somewhere I read, silence is not an option. I don't stand with the silence. That's the last two sentences of your letter to Drew, your letter to your nephew. But America needs to understand that too. We got a self-respect. We got a self-defense. And we intervene when you start killing us like that.
I'm sorry.
We intervene out of love, brother. Out of deep love. We do it for Mommy.
Let me ask you this, because everyone I saw on that video, and I asked this earlier, everyone I saw had some empathy, saw the humanity, felt the humanity in George Floyd, as you said, foibles and all. We're not thinking that when someone's laying on the pavement in that situation, like what they've done wrong. We're thinking about, well, you're taking the life from a human being. Why is it that every single, and when you said the police thing, everybody saw his humanity and felt it, except for the police officers who were there?
Because they've been getting away with it for decade after decade after decade. Even the good policemen, in the language of the mainstream, they remain silent. And they allow the gangsters in their ranks who've been mistreating folk. And keep in mind, brother, it's not just black folk who've been treated like this. You got some white brothers and sisters being treated like this, but we get 3 times. We get 36% of all of them. We only 12.8% of the population. You see what I mean? So we concerned about everybody. We ain't just because we're not confined to just the chocolate side, But I'll be damned if we're not going to start with the chocolate side of town with our blacks, our brown and indigenous folk, and our Asians. And it is in the name of love, but love sometimes can get real tough. Love is protect, respect, and correct. And we're not going to stand there and just be victims. No, no, no. No, that's not Shiloh Baptist Church. That's not the West family. That's not Glen Elder, brother. That's not Curtis Mayfield. That's not Gladys Knight and the Pips. We come out swinging.
You know I went to Shiloh.
All right. Dr. Cornel West, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Cornel West. Putting it down. Talking about George Floyd and how, wondering how people were able to stand by. And I think they did all they could do. They felt they did all they could do. The bystanders. And still, it's their testimony in a large part that's going to bring, if there's going to be justice, if it wasn't for the filming, we'd have nothing, guys. So, yeah. As much as I agree totally with Dr. Cornel West, and I understand what he's saying here, but also those bystanders, though, they did not intervene, they didn't jump in. The fact they have that footage changes everything, Johnson. I mean, it changes everything. And I think that's all I have on that. And I showed you that clip not because Don Lemon's in it. I showed you that clip because Cornel West is in it. That should go without saying, but there are a couple people commenting as if this means I support Don Lemon's BS. I mean, all corporate media talking heads are compromised. They have to be. They have jobs. That's what they do. Anybody with a job is compromised to a certain extent because because you got to operate within the parameters of the job. And media's job is to, disseminate, in a lot of cases, false information. That's the job. Read this shit to these people. And it's only independent media where we get to keep it real. And I'm starting to believe that some of us just don't know what we're talking about. It's maybe not a nefarious intention behind it. Like, do those people really know they're bigging up Charles Barkley, who really thinks black people need to just pull their pants up pookie? And I saw some progressives bigging him up, who didn't put any context around his black-on-black crime bullshit. Yeah, I wonder why, Johnson. Oh, that's right, because 40% of our children live in a poverty rate. Oh, that's why. That'd be a good reason. Because we're mass incarcerated like hell. Because slavery was never abolished, and the 13th Amendment has most of our dads in jail. Hence, we got what? Like only 29% of black women get married? How could they with men in jail? It's a lot of shit here. But anyway, I'm sorry. Personal responsibility is important. You know what's also important? Fucking healthcare. Fucking healthcare, man. Lead not in your water driving your kids psychotic. That would be great too. Chicago, hello. Hello, motherfucker. Hello. Lead in water causes a lot of neurological problems. Hello. Next. All right. Now, this part of the show is where we go over. Now, look, guys, I've been covering the George Floyd case, the George Floyd murder, which is the Derek Chauvin case, from the rooter to the tutor, from the bell to the bell. And I'm proud to continue that work because I think it's necessary. And damn it, I want to see change. And hell, I know people don't want to sit through that long 7-8 hour stream is what they are. But I do it because that's my job. That's what I do. So anyway, today I picked it up and resumed. The trial of Derek Chauvin resumed today with day 6. I will just keep it 100, guys. I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God, I will not be able to sit through this one. This will not be something I can sit through. I'm sorry, John. This is where are the cliff notes to this shit? Because today was not about something charismatic. It wasn't interesting and very intriguing. It wasn't, oh my God, what's this witness going to say? It wasn't heartfelt like when his girlfriend, when she came up, I forget her name now, but when she spoke, You were moved to tears. It wasn't like the young brother Donald Williams II when he spoke. You know, this is expert testimony, state's witnesses testifying, which can be kind of corny and dry. But I was wrong, Johnson. Oh, I was so wrong. Bad Tim Black, bad host. What the hell you talk about, dog? Folks, today has been the most important day of the George Floyd, Derek Chauvin trial. I repeat, today has been the most important day if you want a conviction. Now, if you want to be entertained, today is not the day, Johnson. Today was the least entertaining day of all the days. But if you want that motherfucker to go to jail, today was your day. More so than any other day. I say that knowing that's a heavy claim to make. Gotta have evidence for that. Well, I got the receipts, Johnson. Receipt number 1. Oh shit, where's my receipts? I wrote down the names of the witnesses. There's only a couple witnesses. Oh, here we go. I got my, you thought I lost my receipt, Johnson. See how you guys do, man? See what I'm saying? You ain't got no damn receipts, dog. No, I got receipts. Whatever. First witness is Dr. Bradford. Now, hold on, listen. This is a name for your ass. This guy's name is Dr. Bradford Wankhead Lagenfeld. He's the Hennepin County Medical Center doctor, physician. He's the doctor who pronounced George Floyd dead. His testimony is invaluable. I encourage you to watch this clip.
A large number of these etiologies.
So you went through the protocols of the H's and the T's. Did you have any kind of leading theories for treatment purposes as to what the most likely causes were for Mr. Floyd's cardiac arrest?
I felt that I was able to determine that some etiologies or causes were less likely based on the information that I had both from the paramedics and also the information I was able to obtain from my exam and ultrasound, etc. At the time, based on all the information.
I think it would be helpful if I told you what the clip is going to be about, because like we're in the middle of him talking, you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And he sounds boring too. Okay. The reason why this clip is important is because the good doctor is going to explain the likely causes of George Floyd's cardiac arrest. Now, cardiac arrest is when your heart stops beating. Okay? Now you with me? Now you see why this is important? Because all these people have been online who haven't listened to the medical examiner who was there, who pronounced him dead. They don't know shit. They just talk. They make up things. They repeat something they heard said on The Blaze, or Tommy Lauren, or Candace, somebody, okay? So this is the actual doctor who was in the room with George Floyd, trying to save his life, trying to bring him back to life because his heart was no longer beating. Okay, that's the significance of this clip. And with that, we begin again.
A large number of these etiologies.
So you went through the protocols of the H's and the T's. Did you have any kind of leading theories for treatment purposes as to what the most likely causes were for Mr. Floyd's cardiac arrest?
I felt that I was able to determine that some etiologies or causes were less likely based on the information that I had both from the paramedics and also the information I was able to obtain from my exam and ultrasound, etc. At the time, based on all the information I had, I thought it was less likely that the patient had suffered from, for example, cardiac tamponade. There was no fluid around the heart, tension pneumothorax, we can discuss that briefly. At one point in the case, I was concerned that he may have developed a tension pneumothorax, but I felt it was unlikely. We did, in fact, perform bilateral finger thoracostomies where we entered the chest.
Let's ask another question.
I'll ask another question.
People are like, what the hell is he talking about,
You
Johnson?
were explaining to the jury that you thought it was not likely a cardiac tamponade. Then you explaining why you thought that tension pneumothorax was not likely.
Correct.
And could you, in plain English, help the jurors to understand how you might have eliminated that?
We essentially used a scalpel to cut into the chest and create a hole between the chest and the potential space around the lungs. We did not appreciate any large gush of air that might suggest that there was air in that potential space.
Was there anything that you looked at to determine whether or not the cardiac arrest was likely or unlikely to be related to Mr. Floyd having had a heart attack?
A lot of that is based on the history that we received from paramedics. There was no report that, for example, the patient complained of chest pain or was clutching his chest at any point or having any other symptoms to suggest a heart attack. That information was absent. Also, the fact that he was in PEAA systole, as I was told on the initial rhythm check, further decreases the likelihood of that possibility. At the time, it was not completely possible to rule that out, but I felt that it was less likely based on the information that was available to us.
Did the ultrasound play any role in the question of whether or not he did or did not, or was likely not to have had a heart attack?
No, not especially in this case, no. Did not.
Okay. All right, so what do we got? What do we got? The good doctor's explaining that based on his information, based on what he saw, based on his inspection, this was not likely a heart attack. No heart attack. Oh, wow. All the people that have been saying he had a heart attack. That's what they do. That's what junkies do. They have heart attacks. Okay. Well, I know that's what you say, but that's not what the doctor said. We all know how some people view science. They don't believe science at all. They go on their gut feeling. Well, if you're a person that appreciates science, maybe it matters that the medical examiner who pronounced George Floyd dead, who actually looked inside of his chest, knows the difference of what a heart looks like when it's a heart attack and when it's not a heart attack. So, Tim Black, what did George Floyd die of? That's the next clip.
A large number of these etiologies.
So you went.
I did then, as I'd mentioned, use the ultrasound to look in the abdomen and did not see any evidence of hemorrhage. There was no obvious significant external trauma that would have suggested that he suffered anything that could produce bleeding sufficient to lead to a cardiac arrest. And so, based on the history that was available to me, I felt that hypoxia was one of the more likely possibilities.
And hypoxia as an explanation for his cardiac arrest, meaning oxygen insufficiency.
Correct.
Did you have any other leading theories as to why Mr. Floyd's heart may have stopped other than oxygen deficiency?
Yes. I also considered an acidosis. In particular, excited delirium, which is a controversial diagnosis, but it was in the differential in this case.
And were you able to make any assessments about so-called excited delirium based on your examination of Mr. Floyd?
Again, the patient had been in cardiac arrest for 30 minutes. It can be difficult based on the examination Certainly there was no report that the patient was ever very sweaty, which is often the case when thinking about excited delirium. There was no report that the patient had ever been, that Mr. Floyd had ever been extremely agitated. In my experience, seeing a lot of cases of mental health crises or drug use leading to severe agitated states, that is almost always reported by paramedics. And so the absence of that information was telling, and that I didn't have any reason to believe that that was the case here.
So when you, how long was Mr. Floyd in your care in the emergency department?
Approximately 30 minutes.
And at the end of the 30 minutes, did you pronounce him formally dead?
Yes.
At the time you pronounced him dead, was he still in some degree in PEA or asystole in terms of describing his heart?
I think it's probably best to think of these as sort of a spectrum where PEA is some degree of electrical activity still running through the heart, but the heart's not pumping. And then eventually that will devolve into asystole, where both the heart is not pumping and then the electrical activity stops as well. And so at the end of the case, Mr. Floyd was still in PEA, but there was virtually no cardiac activity. And at that point, in the absence of any apparent reversible cause, and because Mr. Floyd had been in arrest for, by this time, 60 minutes, I determined that the likelihood of any meaningful outcome was far below 1%, and that we would not be able to resuscitate Mr. Floyd, and so I then pronounced him dead.
And doctor, was your leading theory then for the cause of Mr. Floyd's cardiac arrest oxygen deficiency?
That was one of the more likely possibilities. I felt that at the time, based on the information I had, it was more likely than the other possibilities.
And doctor, is there another name for death by oxygen deficiency?
Asphyxia is a commonly understood term.
Thank you, Dr. Langenfeld. No further questions.
Yeah. Now, I hit the clap button not because we won anything, because we didn't win anything. There's nothing here to win. The best we can do is hope for some type of form of penance in the form of jail time for Chauvin. But it does feel damn good to hear the medical examiner say asphyxia. After me having to sit through time and time and time and time and time again, people who don't know anything, who have done no research at all, who listen to one commentator talk. I've even had people call the show and say, oh, you're going to be so disappointed because you're going to find out he did drugs. Once again, you may drink beer. But if you get hit by a bus, the beer didn't do it. Asphyxia. Now, the next witness, Chief of Police. Oh, this witness here, to me, I'm wondering why Chauvin is not considering a plea bargain. It's only complete arrogance at this point. Yeah, man, if this was a regular guy with a regular job, he just took a plea deal. We'd never see this play out because he just took a plea deal, took his 20 years, and been thankful. If he could get 20. You understand what I'm saying? Because what you're about to witness, the next witness, is not some random guy condemning Chauvin. It's going to be the Chief of Police of Minnesota. The Chief of Police of Minnesota is about to testify and throw Chauvin way up under the bus. Way up under the bus. Folks, In this next clip, it's a methodical breaking down of all things wrong about Chauvin. They're not even going to mention his name in the beginning. What they're going to go over are the procedures, because I've heard people get this wrong too. The procedures Chauvin broke as a Minnesota police officer in every step of the way he handled this. Once again, guys, if you're like me, you've been online, you've heard people make a lot of claims. He was just following instructions. Nope. No, he wasn't, dumbass. Do you know what the instructions are? Cite the instructions, Johnson. The chief of police knows what the instructions are. He's going to tell you. So we're going to hear a subject matter expert in Minnesota tell us what he did wrong or what was not done correctly and how things are supposed to be done.
I did then.
Let me give the man his respect. My bad. Let me do this the right way. My bad. This is the chief of police. His name is Medario Arredondo, chief of police of Minnesota Police Department.
In employing de-escalation techniques, in accordance with the policy, the officer is required to consider a number of factors regarding the subject. Is that right?
Yes.
And we're assuming here that the subject is non-compliant. You run into people who, maybe don't want to comply with police officers, but you can also run into people who just, for some reason, are unable to do so at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
And officers are required to consider, and if you could highlight B and the bullets that come underneath. The officers under the Minneapolis de-escalation policy are required to consider whether the subject's lack of compliance is a deliberate attempt to resist or an inability. Is that right?
Yes.
And if you could read, first, the first bullet is medical conditions, correct?
Yes.
We have mental impairment, developmental disability, physical limitations. Some of you may just be physically unable to comply, correct?
Yes.
Language barrier. The city of Minneapolis has a variety of people who speak a variety of different languages. Someone just may not understand you, right?
That is correct.
And if you're not considering that, perhaps the situation could escalate into something greater than it would need to be.
Yes.
The last two bullets, first, could you read the second to the last bullet?
Yes. One of the other considerations officers should take into account is the influence of drug or alcohol use.
How so?
We know the research says that people can react differently when they're under the use of alcohol or drugs. And so you trying to give verbal commands, if someone's under the use of alcohol or drugs or you're doing force, it may have a different reaction to them. So that should be something that you should be considering.
And 12:30. Sir, drug or alcohol use, in this context is being required that the officer consider to determine if de-escalation is appropriate. It can be true that some people who are under the influence of drugs or alcohol can become dangerous, correct?
That is correct.
But isn't it also true that some people react completely different and they are not necessarily dangerous if they're under the influence of alcohol or drugs?
That is correct.
In fact, they may not be more dangerous, they may actually be more vulnerable.
True.
And it's important that the officer considers that when determining whether to go the route of force or continued force or de-escalation. Fair?
Yes.
Behavioral crisis is the last bullet I'd like you to discuss. What do you mean by behavioral crisis?
Behavioral crisis, of all the bullets, sometimes that is probably the one that our men and women experience in our communities most. If someone loses a job, that can trigger a behavioral crisis. If someone loses a loved one, that can trigger a behavioral crisis. If someone has themselves got the worst diagnosis from their doctor that day, that can trigger a behavioral crisis. And so we want our folks to take all of those things into consideration. When I talk about meeting our community where they are, that's probably the one that we need to really focus on. Yeah.
And as you testified earlier, the police just don't get to meet people on their very best day, do they?
No, they don't.
And the behavioral crisis, as the kind you've described here, can in fact be a barrier to compliance. Would cause an inability to comply, even if not, an intentional inability to comply. That's fair.
Let's go to list, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so the purpose of the listing a behavioral crisis as a point of consideration for a law enforcement officer is what?
Again, it's recognizing that when we get the call from our communities, it may not often be their best day, and they may be experiencing something that is very traumatic. But we're going to respond, but we have to take that into consideration because, as I mentioned again, we may be the first and last time they have an interaction with a Minneapolis police officer, and so we have to make it count. It matters.
Okay. Now that was painstaking, right? That was tough, but it's de-escalation techniques, man. We gotta talk about de-escalation because that's what should have taken place. And I'm telling you guys, as I watch this, and this is the longest I've ever sat through a police officer describe policies of policing, it totally changed my opinion about a couple things. One of the things that changed my opinion about, cops got enough training. Yeah, I know we all say they don't get enough training. According to the policies, if the policies were fucking followed, we wouldn't have these problems. It's in the policies that you're supposed to be considerate of the person's mental state. How often do they just shoot people? Just serious, guys. Like, how often are these? Do you think these policies are radically different than the police force in your own state? I don't think they are, Johnson. I don't think it's like radically different. I think most policies are pretty much the same. The problem is the application of the policies. Are these just words on a book? So I recognize that this chief of police, his job is to not make the state look like shit. So he's going to come out here and put on this, basically, this is, he's doing a good job, and we should respect the community, and we have to have a thoughtful, and then his guys go out and do what the hell they want to do. I understand that, but when it comes to getting a conviction, hey, man, guess who signed the paperwork to say he's going to adhere to these policies? Derek Chauvin. George Floyd never signed a paperwork, a book, a training that he had to do every year about following these policies. Derek Chauvin did. That's why it's important, though it's painstaking, it's a pain in the ass, it's important to go through this step by step because Derek Chauvin is supposed to behave and do exactly what these policies say. In fact, every police officer in Minneapolis is supposed to follow these policies or get the hell out the job. You can't say, well, in the field, is because they were trying to make the argument. The defense for Derek Chauvin's been trying to make the argument. Things are different on the street. They're not supposed to be. You're supposed to follow the policy. You're not supposed to go, oh, well, this is what I say I'm going to do, but out there, this is not what we do. We do this. This ain't training day, bitch. Your name ain't, I don't even know the guy's name. You ain't Denzel Washington in training day. You don't get to make it up. And we saw what happened to Denzel Washington at the end, right? So now let's go to the second clip. Chief confirms the trainings that Chauvin did not use in the type of trainings that Chauvin undertook. that all officers undertake.
Delivered through a series of in-service trainings that occur at the same training facility you mentioned?
Yes.
Is that training optional? Can an officer go somewhere else to get their post credits and skip the in-service, or is that training required?
That training is required annually.
Do you have to take it?
Yes, I do.
What type of training is provided in the post-service training?
Some of the training that is provided in the annual training can be critical incident training, CIT training.
CIT is crisis intervention training?
Crisis intervention training, thank you. Yes, crisis intervention training, defensive tactics, basic CPR or first aid. Those are some of the types of training that is required annually. Yeah.
Even though they've already ostensibly been trained on all of these things before, you're still doing the same training annually?
That is correct.
Why is that?
A lot of that is just to reemphasize the importance of the training itself, muscle memory, because all of our department members are being taught the same thing. We may have officers that are working in a patrol capacity one year, and the next year they may be in investigations, but they may be called to assist upon. And so it's making sure that all of us have that basic, necessary, core fundamental training to better help serve our communities.
So if you could give the jury kind of an idea of the amount of time that is spent training your officers.
It's a lot. We put a lot of time, energy, and resources into our training. I believe last year, the Minneapolis Police Department, in terms of our mandatory in-service training and leadership training, we probably spent about $8.5 million. In our pre-service and in-service training, that was probably about $4.5 million. So training is absolutely vitally essential to us as a department.
Johnson. 1 second. How many times we get to hear politicians say, we need more training. The cops need more training. I'm convinced, guys. Like, so this is what I'm saying. After watching this long proceeding, I came away a different guy. And to think I didn't want to watch it. I was bored. My eyes were glossing over. Minneapolis spent 8.5. I said Minneapolis and Minnesota. Hold on a second. Madero. That's important. Minneapolis, my bad. Minneapolis Police Department. Minnesota's the state. Minneapolis is the city, Tim Black. So I got that wrong. That's state city. That's important. Minneapolis spent $8.5 million in in-service training and another $4.5 million in some other type of training, right? For officers, that's $13 million annually. You get trained once in the academy, that's not enough. Annually, you go back through training. You got to get recertified. If you're in any type of business that has to be recertified, you have to take tests in order to maintain your certification. You have to have a certification in order to work. Okay? So that's why this is so important. And that's why you got to be there. And that gives our guy Chauvin no fucking wiggle room. But my point is, so many times we hear people saying, we need more training, cops need more training. No, we need better cops. We need better cops, Johnson. We need cops that aren't corrupt. We need cops that aren't racist and cops that aren't corrupt and cops that aren't sexist and cops that aren't psychos. And we need cops with less power. And for the cops that we have to have, that have guns, who do certain shit, we need to pay them more money. And we need to have higher guidelines. and the higher criteria for those cops. I'm one of those people that say, we don't need to get rid of cops. We need to restructure policing. We're still going to need people to catch really bad people, but those people need to be really paid really well. They need to be really good at their jobs. Really good. You don't get to be bad at the job. But you don't get paid a bullshit wage either. Okay? So that's the way I see it. Because there's always going to be some people that you got to have real cops for. Now, this next clip is important because this next clip, guys, is about the bystanders. If you've been following this, you've been watching, guys, the first couple of days of testimony, the defense, it was like they were trying to make it not George Floyd's fault he was killed, but the bystanders. They were trying to make it the bystanders' fault. The people that were filming, ages 9 to 70. 12 people at different points of time who never touched Floyd, never touched an officer, never came within 5 feet of Floyd, who were on the sidewalk for the most time, maybe sometimes a foot or two off the sidewalk, but got orders to get back on the sidewalk. They wanted to make those bystanders the reason George Floyd died. And they tried to blame everything on the bystanders. So that's why this clip is so important, because here, the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department is going to talk to you about bystanders, what their rights are, what they can do, and what constitutes interference of a bystander.
Delivered through a series of in-service, section 5-104.01. Sir, is this the professional policing policy?
Yes, it is.
And could you read the first bullet, please?
The first bullet reads, be courteous, respectful, polite, and professional.
And if you would then also read the third bullet.
Ensure that the length of any detention is no longer than necessary to take appropriate action for the known or suspected offense.
And you can take that down, please. Sir, fair to say that law enforcement generally has changed a lot since you started back in 1989, is that right?
That is correct.
1989, you didn't have body-worn cameras, correct?
That is correct.
And nor did you have sort of the ability for civilians, bystanders, to video or record conduct of police officers, right?
We did not.
Because we didn't have smartphones.
That's true.
And now we do.
Yes.
And as you indicated, the policies and culture of the police department has to change with the times, is that right?
Yes.
And so in terms of understanding that sometimes bystanders do use their smartphones to take video images of police officers, has the Minneapolis Police Department imparted any training or constructed any policies to prepare officers for people recording them?
Yes, we have. We've imparted policy that really is informing officers that individuals under their First Amendment rights, they have the absolute First Amendment right to record through cell phone video or other types of video officers interacting or engaging with a community member, with the exception that they cannot obstruct the activity of the officers, but they absolutely have the right, barring that, to record us performing our duties.
And what does obstruct mean in this context?
Obstruct would mean interfering, doing something where you are physically placing yourself in a position where you're prohibiting the officers for carrying out their lawful duties. But barring that, individuals have the right to record our engagement with our community.
Well, Chief, you'd have to acknowledge that a patrol officer may find it irritating to have a civilian recording their activities. True?
Very true.
Is that obstruction?
It is not.
At this time, I'd like to display.
Yep, Johnson. It's not obstruction. Jackass defense attorney, scumbag slime balls, lying bastard. That's what he is, a lying motherfucker. All right, so no. Someone filming from the sidewalk saying rude things like, don't kill that guy. You're killing him. Stop killing him. That is not an excuse to kill him. I wasn't going to kill him, but you kept telling me not to, and I couldn't think. For 10 minutes. This is the defense, guys. That's why, look, I'm not saying get excited. But God damn it, who could buy that? And even if you wanted to buy it because you're like, I really am a big supporter of the cops and the cops risk their lives, it's kind of hard when the chief of police is like, filming ain't shit. It ain't nothing. Do your job. You're a professional. That's why you get paid the big bucks, Johnson. Next clip. This one, I don't remember what this is. Hold on. I know it's the chief of police. I think it's going to talk to us about force. Okay, this is also important because a lot of this is about use of force, right? No, medical assistance. This one's medical assistance. I'm sorry. This is medical assistance. Then we're going to go use of force. All very important because I've been saying, hey, cops are trained like EMTs. All those cops that were there when George Floyd died all had the ability to help him. They all were trained to help him. Every year, they are recertified to be able to help a person in distress. All 4 of them. You got 4 guys, 4 officers of the state, government officials. That's what police are. With a guy dying slowly over 10 minutes, and none of them, not a single one of them, did a damn thing to help him. That was their job. You boot-kissing, stink-kissing assholes. That's their job. If they come to your house, dog, and your wife falls out, they don't get to sit on her back and watch her die for 10 minutes, saying, well, whenever the EMTs get here, I'd really like to help, lady. That's assuming they didn't cause her to fall out, and that's assuming they're not strangling her. Slowly. But I'm sure you would just go, well, it's not their job. It's the EMT's job, right? Because you don't care about your wife, right? Now, I think some people just don't care about Floyd because he's a black guy who did drugs that time, you know? So fuck him. He don't get to live. He brought it on himself. Let's go to that medical assistance part.
Section 5-104.01. What are they supposed to do?
While awaiting EMS, MPD employees assisting an individual having an acute medical crisis shall provide any necessary first aid consistent with our MPD training as soon as practical.
And so then that presumes, of course, they're waiting for EMS or waiting for some kind of emergency services. Is that right?
That is correct.
So would it be fair to say that this policy then is in 2 parts? The officer has to request EMS or an ambulance, correct?
Yes.
And while waiting for the ambulance, they're required to provide what medical training and skills they have to attempt to save the person.
That is correct.
Are Minneapolis police officers provided naloxone or Narcan kits?
Yes, we are.
What are those?
It is basically a inhaler for community members who we may respond to have overdosed. It is to, if they've overdosed and are out, it is to give them that inhaler injection so that they can hopefully come to. And so it was a few years ago where, for the most part, our Minneapolis Fire Department were the ones that responded to overdose and carried the Narcan. Unfortunately, in our cities across the country saw an uptick in heroin and opioid overdoses. We had to make sure that we were, again, because we were oftentimes the first ones to come across these situations, we wanted to make sure that we were in service to our communities and making sure that if we could save lives, that we were equipping our folks with Narcan.
And a policy developed as a result of this, is that right?
That is correct.
If I can show you Exhibit 229, it's published at. Is this the Narcan policy 7-348?
That is correct, yes.
And our officers provided training in the administration of Narcan?
Yes.
Under appropriate circumstances. What are they supposed to do?
Okay, so very briefly, according to the policies that were all signed by Derek Chauvin and every other officer there, even if they thought that George Floyd was having an overdose, the things that they were supposed to do. They didn't do it. So, but he was on heroin. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? Nothing. No, you signed a document saying you know what you're supposed to do. Everyone's trained in what they're supposed to do. He says he can't breathe. What are you supposed to do? Nothing. He's not telling the truth. I don't believe him. How would he know if he can't breathe? He doesn't know. He's talking so he can breathe. Fuck what he says. Use of force, Johnson.
If you'd highlight use of force. Generally speaking, what is force?
It can be any physical contact. It can be with a weapon. It could be with a vehicle. But it's any sort of physical contact that is more likely to render harm or injury to someone.
Is the use of restraint considered force?
That would be considered force.
And what type of force is authorized under departmental policy?
We under 609, we operate under the use of force, the Graham v. Connor statute, objectively reasonable force.
And if I could display Exhibit 217. Let's see. First, go back to 5-303. 5-303 authorizes force, is that right? And you mentioned 60906, state statute authorizing force under certain circumstances, is that right?
Yes.
And the phrase that's used for the authorization of force is what type of force?
Reasonable.
And that force can be authorized under certain circumstances, is that right?
Yes.
All right. So now if you would go to the next page, and let's talk about the circumstances under which a police officer is authorized properly to use force. If you highlight that. What are the circumstances under which an officer is authorized to use force?
An officer is authorized to use force affecting a lawful arrest, executing a legal process, enforcing an order of the court, and any other duties imposed upon that officer.
And that term reasonable force is further delineated in the policy, is that right?
Yes.
If we take a look at Exhibit 217, I believe under the definition, objectively reasonable force. Could you please read that definition?
Yes. The amount and type of force that would be considered rational and logical to an objective officer on the scene, supported by facts and circumstances known to an officer at the time the force was used.
Oh, you discussed a case, the Connor, right? The Connor factors. And I'd like you to, well, first of all, does the policy reference the Connor factors that you just mentioned?
Yes.
If you could display 217, page 2. Okay. And we have 3 bullet points here under the Connor factors. And that is the officer is supposed to look at the totality of the circumstances, right?
Yes.
And the 3 bullets here that the officer is supposed to consider are what?
The officer should consider the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether he is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight.
And fair to say these three different considerations are things that you can attribute to the subject, correct?
Yes.
That's the subject's conduct, not someone else's.
Yes.
Okay, Johnson. Use of force. Use of force should be determined in part by the severity of the crime that was committed. We all know the crime that was committed, right? A $20 bill, an alleged phony $20 bill. It's going to get worse for Derek Chauvin. Much worse. And this next clip is going to get so bad for Chauvin, guys. I'm beginning to think he's sacrificial. I think the department has decided, get rid of this guy. Yeah, just get rid of him. Give him 100 years if you got it. Get rid of Derek Chauvin. This guy's a problem for us. He makes us look horrible. He makes all police look horrible. Get rid of this guy. This went super viral. The most viral police killing in history. People remember Rodney King. Rodney King was alive. He lived. He got the money. Remember Rodney King, guys? Rodney King got paid. He didn't even die, and it was pretty huge. This next clip is so bad for Chauvin. Like I said, I think it's a wrap. I think it's obvious that the Minneapolis Police Department wants to cut his losses. Check it out.
Well, and obviously you're here talking about what happened on May 25, 2020, involving George Floyd. Do you recall why the officers were responding to cup foods on that date? The original reason for the call?
The original reason for the call was a response regarding a counterfeit situation at the store at the intersection of 38th and Chicago.
And in terms of the deployment of your resources at the Minneapolis Police Department and as chief, how do you rate, I guess, the severity of that offense, the seriousness of that offense?
It would probably not rise to the level of, and particularly in light of last year, the level of violent crime that we've experienced in the city, but we would certainly respond to it, but it would not rise to the level in terms of severity of the crime here.
In looking at the particular type of crime, is that one for which a suspect is typically taken into a custodial arrest?
Typically not.
And why is that?
If it's not a violent felony, we also, in coordination with our jail system and our courts, there's been a shift over the years to make sure that the individuals who are going to jail are those who, from a public safety standpoint, need to be at least in that facility in the Hennepin County Jail. And if we can properly identify and it's not a violent situation, we can always charge via complaint and other things. And so that's one of the reasons why.
You use the phrase, I guess, violent felony. What's the more important part, whether it's violent or whether it's a felony?
Well, violence.
Why is that?
Well, it can certainly endanger not only the officers but the community.
You heard that right. Excuse me. Did I hear that correctly, Johnson? It sounds like the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department doesn't even think George Floyd should have been arrested. It wasn't a violent crime. And since they could issue a citation, get his address, send him a complaint, have him come to court, you don't arrest a guy over a $20 counterfeit bill. Case closed, face closed. Why did they arrest George Floyd? You know, all of these ass-kissing, cop ass-kissing people that I've been running into who flood my comment sections, who won't share my content, who complain, who are bitching right now, probably on Facebook, never even considered, hey, why are they arresting a guy over a $20 bill? Why are they handcuffing a guy over a $20 bill? The chief of police is like, we got real crime going on, violent crime going on. Our services, our resources are better used for that. Not a guy who's nonviolent, not committing a violent offense, not a violent offense, then we could issue him a complaint, have him come to court. And if we want to charge him, we could, if we wanted to. Why are we dealing with it? We're going to respond to the call because we got called. But this escalation is ridiculous. That's, folks, what are the people now? What's my vote blue anywho? My blue lives matter? Where they at now? Okay, let me guess. All of a sudden, it's fuck the police. Yeah, because Chauvin's a white police. Now it's fuck the black police chief. Yeah, screw him. Last week, I had Zimmerman, the chief, a Lieutenant Zimmerman, who was a white guy. They were saying he was too old. Yeah, that was the excuse. He a cop, he says what Chauvin did was wrong, but he's older. As if they don't have the same training that they have to update every year in order to be cops. Now, the police chief, since he's black, they're going to say, all right, what is he now? But they're not going to say it's because he's black. It's going to say because, what is he now? Because George is a black man and Chief Arredondo is a black man. They'll say, obviously, he's just lying for him. Once again, guys, I'm wondering why they're not looking for a plea bargain at this point. Behind the scenes, Chauvin need to be thinking about if he ever wants to see sunlight again, if he ever wants to be a free man again in his life. That's what he should be thinking about. Because it gets worse. It gets worse, proceedingly worse for him, okay? Next clip. Let's talk about the form of restraint that was used on Floyd. Because people keep saying, oh, it's okay what they did. It's all right. Okay, for real? It's okay what they did? Okay. Let's see what the policy book says, and let's see what the chief of police says. Since it's okay, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and all this weird lefties don't know what we're talking about, let's see what the book says about what you're supposed to do. Not what crooked cops do, but what they're supposed to do, what they swore an oath to do.
That I saw for the first time what is now known as the bystander video.
Fair to say that this was a much closer video and it had audio?
Yes, this I was able to see the occurrence, see the officers involved. I was able to actually see Mr. Floyd. I was actually able to hear what was occurring, and I was also able to get a better understanding of the length of time, the duration of the call, the incident. Yes.
Now, prior to testifying today, have you now reviewed the bystander video, Facebook video in its entirety?
Yes, I have.
You've also reviewed and reviewed milestone footage?
Yes, I have.
And have you reviewed the body-worn camera footage worn by officers Tao, King, Lane, and the defendant?
Yes, I have.
Now, first, I want to show you what's been received as Exhibit 17. Do you recognize Exhibit 17 to be an image taken from the bystander video that you reviewed?
Yes, I do.
Now, sir, based upon your review of all of the information that you just mentioned, Do you believe that the defendant followed departmental policy 5-304 regarding de-escalation?
I absolutely do not agree with that.
And how so?
That action is not de-escalation. And when we talk about the framework of our sanctity of life, and when we talk about the principles and values that we have, that action goes contrary to what we're taught.
As you reflect on Exhibit 17, I must ask you, is this a trained Minneapolis Police Department defensive tactics technique?
It is not.
Well, we read the departmental policy on neck restraints. Is this a neck restraint?
The conscious neck restraint by policy mentions light to moderate pressure. When I look at Exhibit 17, and when I look at the facial expression of Mr. Floyd, that does not appear in any way, shape, or form that is light to moderate pressure.
So is it your belief then that this particular form of restraint, if that's what we'll call it, in fact violates departmental policy?
I absolutely agree that violates our policy.
Are you aware now that the defendant maintained this position on George Floyd for 9 minutes and 29 seconds?
I am aware of that.
I believe you testified that force has to be reasonable when it's applied at the beginning and through the entire encounter. Is that right?
That is correct.
Is what you see in Exhibit 17, in your opinion, within Minneapolis Police Departmental Policy 5-300, authorizing the use of reasonable force?
It is not.
And why not?
That is it has to be objectively reasonable. We have to take into account the circumstances, information, the threat to the officer, the threat to others, and the severity of that. So that is not part of our policy. That is not what we teach, and that should be condoned.
When do you believe, or do you have a belief as to when this restraint, the restraint on the ground that you viewed, should have stopped?
Once Mr. Floyd, and this is based on my viewing of the videos, once Mr. Floyd had stopped resisting, and certainly once he was in distress and trying to verbalize that, that should have stopped. There's an initial reasonableness in trying to just get him under control in the first few seconds, but once there was no longer any resistance, and clearly when Mr. Floyd was no longer responsive and even motionless, to continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy. It is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
Sir, based on your review of the video and based on your own experience and training as an MPD officer, did you see signs during the encounter that Mr. Floyd was exhibiting indicia of being in medical distress?
Yes. Yes.
And you saw at one point, I think you just testified, that Mr. Floyd was unresponsive.
That is correct.
And that officers, were you aware that officers couldn't find a pulse?
Could you repeat that, sir?
And were you aware that officers at the time of the restraint were unable to find a pulse?
Yes, I was aware of that.
And so stated.
I was aware that the officers were not able to find a pulse, yes.
Did you see the defendant or any of the officers attempt to provide first aid to Mr. Floyd?
I did not see any of the defendants try to attempt to provide first aid to Mr. Floyd.
The defendant did not try CPR. He did not start chest compressions.
Objection, argumentative, and leading. Sustained is leading. Rephrase.
Did you see them provide any medical attention?
I did not.
Then based on these observations, do you have an opinion as to whether the defendant violated MPD departmental policy 7-350 by failing to render aid to Mr. Floyd?
I agree that the defendant violated our policy in terms of rendering aid.
There it is, Johnsons. There it is. There it is. See, I mean, it's sad that you got to have the chief of police say it for certain ones of us to actually listen. Okay, if you're a police officer and a guy runs at you with no weapons, just his hands, runs at you, and you felt you needed to shoot his ass, I get that. You shoot him. He falls down. He's laying on the ground. You see no weapons. You don't get to go and stand over him and shoot him another 10 times or 9 times or 8 times or whatever. Then reload and shoot another 8 times and keep shooting until the EMTs come. I mean, that's basically what Chauvin did. He said, okay, this guy, we need to get him under control, so I'm going to sit on his neck. And then he stayed sitting on his neck for 10 minutes. And people going, that's fine, that's what you should do. Force is force, man. I want to see some of these assholes let somebody sit on their neck for 10 minutes. You know, some of them were like being funny last year, right after this happened. They were doing videos like TikToks and shit. See, I'm fine. He sat on my neck. The amount of force was inappropriate against all regulations. The form of restraint was unneeded and inappropriate, and it's not part of our policy, training, ethics, or values. I mean, there's no further under the bus Chauvin can go. Chauvin is a problem. Minneapolis Police Department has decided to cut his losses. It's paid out a lot of money. The state paid out a lot of money, and now they want to get rid of Chauvin. Now, hey, I want things to change more than I just want Chauvin to go away. I want Chauvin to go away. I want things to change across the country. That's why I support ending qualified immunity. See, qualified immunity is what cops use to get out of jail. It's what police unions use to make sure cops don't get held accountable when cops kill us. And right now, I got a special Patreon set up with Ben and Jerry, where they got a book about ending qualified immunity. If you become a end qualified immunity level Patreon, they'll send you a book for free. I think I got a couple more clips. That's really a wrap, though. Don't you think it is? I mean, that's really it. I mean, the chief of police says you acted inappropriately. What you did does not go along with what we tell you to do. Now, now what the prosecution has to do is prove intent and prove you did so maliciously. Because this ain't a fucking civil case. So let's get them dead to rights on that. Let's prove, I mean, it looks obvious you want to kill a guy. But okay, so now we got to prove that. But as far as the police are concerned, that guy's garbage. Chauvin is garbage. I think I have the same clips, just shorter. Let's see.
I saw for the first time what is...
Do you recognize Exhibit 17 to be an image taken from the bystander
we're taught?
As you reflect on Exhibit 17, I must ask you, is this a trained Minneapolis Police Department defensive tactics technique?
It is not.
Well, we read the departmental policy on neck restraints. Is this a neck restraint?
The conscious neck restraint by policy mentions light to moderate pressure. When I look at Exhibit 17, and when I look at the facial expression of Mr. Floyd, that does not appear in any way, shape, or form that is light to moderate pressure.
I just want to run up and tackle that motherfucker.
So is it your belief then that this particular form of restraint, if that's what we'll call it, in fact violates departmental policy?
I absolutely agree that violates our policy.
Damn it, man. I tell you, man, that really pisses me off, man. It really does. Just watching that picture, just looking at the image of it, and the people that thought it's okay. I mean, there have been people online for the last year arguing in comment sections all across this country. all across the internet, I've seen these dumbasses in comment sections saying, he only followed procedure. Here goes the chief of police saying, that ain't in our book, dumbass. What are you talking about? Like I said, why still come up with an excuse? Oh, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't pulling shit out my ass. I didn't look at the manual. I didn't look at the policies. I just think it's okay to do because cops can do whatever they want to us. Because my cousin's a cop, and I love cops so much, I don't care what cops do to us. They could throw our children off bridges and I'd still be cool with them. Yeah, rape our women, abuse our kids, shoot us in broad daylight, strangle us and choke the life out of us. Men, so what? They're cops and we worship them. From Barney Fife to Magnum P.I., to Sonny and Crockett, to Ice-T. Motherfuckers, man. Kojak. You dumb fucks. Some dumb motherfuckers, man. Real talk, man. If you're watching me right now and you crying on Facebook, go fuck yourself. All right, guys. In a just world, this case would be over. That guy would take 30 years and get the fuck off the stand and go do his time like a grown man who killed a man. A man you can never fight standing up. You know, one-on-one, his bitch ass would have got broken half by George Floyd. One-on-one, George Floyd would have whipped Derek Chauvin's ass. He's a coward piece of shit. Hide behind a badge. I'm still not convinced that Chauvin didn't have real beef with him outside of, based on the fact they both worked at that club, that bistro or whatever. Yeah, I think Chauvin had beef with George Floyd, I think. That's what I believe, because it seems too personal. And those other cops that were with Chauvin, you're not men. You're garbage. You're cowards. And you're murderers, too. You're accessories to murder. Now, their cases don't come up until August. All right, guys, that's all I got tomorrow. It's call-in day, man. That's right. Tomorrow, call the show. Speak truth to power. I want to hear what you guys say about whatever, man. It's your show tomorrow. I have a couple of news updates to start the show tomorrow, but on Tuesdays and Fridays, we open phone lines and people get to talk and speak their truth. And talk about stories that they care about. Issues that concern them. So that's what's great about this show. That's it. That's all I got, guys. I'm Real Tim Black on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to bitch or complain, send your emails to IDon'tGiveAFuck@TimBlackTV.com. But if you got suggestions, send them to Tim@TimBlackTV.com. Also, I'm on Instagram. So I'm Tim Black at Night on Instagram. Wow. What a night. All right, let's go to comment sections. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters who make this show possible. There's no show without my Patreon people. Give it up for them. All my Wolfpack members on Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon, thank you so much. You make the show possible. Thank you so much. My moderators, the people with the wrenches on YouTube, my moderator on Facebook, thank you so much for helping out when you can. I know it's tough. I come on pretty late. What else? That's it. Let's go to Super Chats. Tony DeMaio. Oh, Tony said, Tony's like, I'm out of here, man. I didn't know Charles Barkley was a dickhead. It's okay, Tony. Tony, it's okay, man. You're a good guy. You heard that one comment from Chuck, and you just thought, but see, I know Chuck. And I agree with that comment was half right. But you got to throw in the politicians. With the politicians, you got to throw in the media. I feel the media drives a lot of the politics. So you can't just say politicians are corrupt. They are. Don't forget the media. Don't forget that shit. Because the media is the one that prints the stories. Politicians aren't printing stories. Black people are horrible. Black people beating up Asians. They're building this whole thing about Asians getting beat up by black people. You don't think there's no white people beating up Asians? Or you think they're cherry picking? Come on, man. What do you think? Really? I think they use race all the time to sell stories. And this industry is so dirty, the media industry is so dirty, it's hard not to use those formats because Americans' minds are so triggered. If I put black in titles, people come watch them. If I don't, it's a double-edged sword though, because some people don't watch it because it says black. Anyway, I'm gonna keep it moving, but no sweat, Tony. You my guy, nothing but love for you. It's my job to know a little bit more about Chuck's resume. And I can say he's half right, but he's been wrong about a lot of other shit. And I'm not just going to jump on this good side. Next, Sheldon Hughes. Thank you, Sheldon, for supporting the show, my brother. At 15, mentor D looked up to laced his weed with crack. At 15, a mentor that D looked up to laced his weed with crack. Yeah, that's what I've heard. DMX, that is. Tony D says, the media divides us more than any politicians. Tony, what's up, man? Tony, look, Tony's self-correcting, like, hold on. Let me think about this. Hold on, he's right. Yeah, man, it's like, there's been some horrible politicians like Joe Biden. So, but there's like the media, man. Think of all the damage Rush Limbaugh did. I mean, just think about it. All the damage CNN does, all the damage Fox News does. Man, that's way more damage than one politician could ever do. You know what I'm saying? All that ink, oh man, they've been doing it for decades. What's the life cycle of a typical politician? I mean, save for like Mitch McConnell. Craig, to my brother, great coverage, great content. I didn't want to relive that evil. Your segments allowed me to see what I needed to see and stay somewhat sane. That's what's up. Please post your BTC address. That's what we do now. My BTC. Oh, BitChute? What's the BTC, y'all? Oh, Bitcoin. My brother. You know what I'm saying? I feel you. I got an Ethereum joint. I never used it, man. I know, man. A friend of mine, Dallas Taylor, has been educating me on Bitcoin for a minute. I'm about to just hire somebody and be like, look, handle this shit because I'm so busy. Roger Meadows. Thanks for saying Goodman now. YouTube wants to adjust his vids. Oh, fuck. For real, dog. That's what I was telling you. People get mad when I mention other people in media, independent media. It helps them. I wish they mentioned me. Go make them mention me. You won't. You should. Go to popular YouTubers and be like, say Tim Black. I think you will. Do that. Go get these people. Make them say my name, Johnson. Roger Miles, look. Cisco's above Cornell's head. I saw that. Sponsor, right? Oh, we got a new member to the Wolfpack. Charlie Rose in the house, y'all. Give it up for Charles. CR in the house. Hey, CR, Charles, thank you for joining the Tim Black Wolfpack. You're officially one of the Johnsons, Johnson. That's what's up. What's up, Chrissy be talking? Garrett Brown, Charles Rose in the house. Edit. Sally Thompson, Chrissy be talking in here. Wendy Gonzalez and Shogun, and Spider 77, and Eileen MC. Hey, I just named 4 names. How are you not members yet? Come on, Johnson. You're supposed to be members of the show by now. Come on, some of y'all, I shout you out every day. Myla, what's up? That's a new name. Myla's new. Susan Bradley, that's my friend Susan. What's up, Susan? Thank you for your help, Susan. Kim. Come on, Kim. DeWine, what's up, DeWine? Mike Walker. Jeanette Eastman is a Patreon. I know Jeanette is. That's my people. Give it up for Jeanette. Damn. Okay, Trudy says, prosecution and defense have proposed jury instructions. The one the judge uses might determine the verdict. That's true. Chauvin jury instructions could determine trial outcome. Bloomberg.com. God damn. It is what it is, Johnson. Roger Meadows says, thanks, Amy. You could have prevented this. Amy Klobuchar. Oh, something I don't talk about much. Fact. 19. Or is it 19 or 18? I think it's 19. Let's go with the number 19. 19 is the number of years Derek Chauvin has been a police officer. 19 is also the number of complaints of police brutality waged against Derek Chauvin. John, MWA, John Roy. 1.13 million a year for training 700 cops in the city of Minneapolis. You're right, Johnson. We need better cops and better state laws to hold cops accountable. Cut down some of that training and pay more money to better cops, get better cops, have less problems. All right? That's what I think. Been a fool up in this joint. Been a fool says, thank you for covering this so deeply. I'm definitely not bored by any of it. It's heartbreaking to watch, but it's necessary for truth. Thank you. Shit, thank you, Ben. I appreciate you. It's a lot of work, Johnson. Every day. 5-6 hours worth of watching a video. Then I try to take notes because I want to know what I'm going to play you before I play it. And I want to introduce it so that it's more palatable, so that you watch it, you're like more interested. Right? Then I got to cover other news too, because we got to do that. So we'll be looking at 12-hour days. But I knew the job was dangerous when I took it. Roger Meadows. No wonder Loyal TV shows makes it spicy. Otherwise, they would not last past first season. There it is, Johnson. I tried to, man. I tried to make it interesting because I swear, man, I don't think you could take it if I wasn't. Roger made the last comment. What'd you say, Roger? Last comment. This has to be independent special prosecutor. No way it's DA. Oh, okay. He's too good, huh? He's too damn good to be the DA. Because he's going too hard on the cops, right? There it is, Johnson. There it is, Roger. That's what's up. We got over 500 people watching on a Monday night. Give it up to people watching on a Monday night, y'all. Come on now. We did all right. We did all right. It's respectable. I'm not saying we're the most popular, but we do okay. I love my friends. All right, guys, that's all I got. I'm out of gas. Number love for you. Have a great evening. I see you tomorrow with a new show. Come back here tomorrow, 11 p.m. The phone lines will be open. You know what time it is. Remember, don't let nobody take your cornbread. That's your cornbread. Keep your cornbread. And sprinkle some facts on them. I'm Tim Black, for real, Tim Black, TBTV. We out of here. Johnson.
Tim Black. Tim Black is the host of The Tim Black Show. Independent news that leaves you informed, inspired, and sometimes entertained, but always in the know. Go to timblacktv.com and sign up today. The Tim Black Show is news for people who can't stand the news. See you there.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you something. Do they know us? When I say they, I mean the talking heads on cable news. Do they know you? I mean, they talk about the world as if it's a sport. They play political games, report on our pain, rack our brain to feed the stock exchange, but do they know us? Do they know what we care about? Nope. They're too far away. They can't see us. They can't feel us. They can't relate to us. See, when you want to know what's going on in your world, trust someone who lives in your world. Subscribe.
Cool Streams TV, the best streaming service in the world. With over 2,000 channels. Watch it anywhere on your Android or iPhone. Watch it on your tablet or any Fire device. Premium channels, network channels, pay-per-view sports. Direct access to 24/7 customer service. Go to CoolStreamsTV.com and purchase your subscription. Cool Streams TV. We are the best in the business.